Hey there guys, what's up? JP here, and I'm finally back after a really long time with another Hearthstone uh video, I guess. I'm just gonna do a really quick deck spotlight here. I've been trying to rank up my classes to 60. That's really all I've been focusing on recently. As you can tell, my dust not that big of an increment here. Gold, on the other hand, yes. So let's show off the deck that I've been using, and I'm still trying to rank up my Druid here. I'm just half a level off of 60. So yeah, as you can see from the name here, this is a Realz inspired Druid deck. As a matter of fact, I think it's basically a carbon copy. Don't quote me on that though. I'm not really sure myself. But yeah, two innovates, because innovates is the most broken card in the game. We got the Mark of a While, just in case you manage to get a body down, you can taunt it up. Gives it just a little bit more toughness, so that it doesn't get removed that easily. The Wild Growth is kind of a unique thing here. It's kind of a mix between ramp and mid range. Just replaces watches for things like Wild Growth and stuff. Yeah, so other than that, we have two Rafts because it's a good removal. Two Savage Roars because that's what Druids do nowadays. It used to be a thing where it's only one Savage Roar and one Force of Nature, but nowadays most decks run double or none at all. So yeah, that's something for you guys to take note of. Big Game Hunter, just in case of those giants. Handlock especially has a really good matchup against this deck, so the Big Game Hunter kind of helps with that a little bit. We have the Harvest Golems here. It's once again just a very robust minion. And then once you couple it with the Mark of the Wild, it makes it really hard to get rid of. Two swipes because of removal, though honestly, I end up using swipe to the face more often than not. So just so that you can get him down to that lethal range of 14. So but it's a very situational thing. 90% of the time you're gonna use it on minions, but if you get the opportunity to swipe his face, you should just swipe his face. So yeah, we have two Yetis. Yetis once again extremely valuable minion here. I think the basic math for value, you can look it up online. It's everywhere here, and the Yeti is probably one of the best value cards out there. Just because for 4 mana, it's really hard to get rid of. The way I like to look at it, it's basically if its combined stats, which is attack and health, is more than the value times two, it's usually worth it here. So in this case, the Yeti has four cost 4 mana. It has 4 attack and 5 health. That's 9. So 9 is bigger than 4 times 2. So therefore, it's a valuable card. I mean, don't take it literally. That's just how I like to look at it. And it may not always be accurate. So just something to take note of. Here we have the Keeper of the Grove. Two of these because they just help a little bit with the taunts that might come up against this deck. This deck does have a little bit of a problem busting through taunts, especially with Brute Force, and especially the Ancient of Wars, which are in the ramp variation of this deck. So, silencing once you silence the Ancient War, it's actually a pretty weak card. Like a 5/5 is pretty easy to deal with, especially as a Druid, especially since most of the minions here have at least 2 to 4 attack. It's really easy to punch through something like that if you silence it. Next up, we have two Azure Drakes, or Azure Drakes, however you want to pronounce it here. This is usually used for the card draw more than the spell power. Um, Overall, it just has incredible stats for 5 drop. Sure, the attack and health is a little bit lacking for a 5 drop, but the +1 spell power and the draw card alone kind of makes up for like one base stat or maybe two base stats. Um, so each ability kind of counts for one. So technically, it has 10 stats for 5 drop, which is really good. Next we have the Druid of the Claw. 90% of the time this is going straight for face, so you're charging this guy. If not, you're just taunting it up. Against aggro decks, things like Zoo, if they don't have the Soulfire in their hand, they're gonna run a few minions into this. And Zoo decks rarely have minions that have more than 4 health. So this guy is probably taking at least 2 to 3 guys down with him against Zoo. Something to take note of as well. Force of Nature double. It's kind of like this deck's unique feature here. It just bursts you down really quickly. The Argent Commander, once again, is just more so that instead of removal, it's going straight for face. Black Knight is, once again, like I said earlier, this deck struggles against really big taunts, and the Black Knight is kind of a one-off solution to that. You just drop it down, it kills a big taunt, end of story. Ancient of War, or rather of Lore, is a really valuable card in my opinion, because it draws you 2 cards or it can heal 5 health. The draw 2 cards is what you're probably going to be using it. So if that's the case, it draws you 2 cards, kind of replaces itself twice. So it's actually extremely valuable here. The stats are a little bit lacking for a 7 drop, and by a bit I mean extremely lacking, but the double card draw is extremely valuable here. And the Ancient of Law itself is probably the king of the mirror matchup, just because it's so much value. And in the mirror matchup, it's all about value. So yeah, get this guy down early and you'll be in pretty good shape. And lastly, Ragnaros. I believe Fields' version actually runs Scenarios, but I've actually never found a situation where Scenarios is better than Rag. But that's just me. I mean, you could make some valued arguments to why Scenarios is better, like the buffing ability and the 2 taunts kind of help against aggro. The buffing that helps you push through opponent minions with sheer value. Um, but I find it to be too situational, and Rag always seems to pull through for me, so I'm running with Rag. Though, make no mistake, Scenarios is a really good card and should be considered in most situations, though I think in the current meta, Rag is just slightly better because it's constantly picking away at minions, as opposed to scenarios where you kind of need to already have minions um, on the board. Because this deck kind of, I wouldn't say it lacks minions, but it lacks minions that stay on the field long enough. Everything here, I wouldn't say dies easily, but they're not exactly minions that swarm. You're not gonna have more than 2 minions on the field at any one time, I think. The once in a while you might have like 3, but that's extremely exceptional. Druids don't really need to have a lot of board presence. Or rather, they do have board presence, it's just that they don't have a lot of minions on the field. So Scenarios rarely buffs more than 1 or 2 minions at any one time. So I didn't find a use for it, though. You could leave a comment below and make your argument the why Rag is better than Scenarios here. But like I said, don't get me wrong, Scenarios is really good. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just not entirely convinced it's better in this deck. So yeah, that'll be all for me for this deck spotlight. Hopefully you like this video. Once again I apologize for being away for quite a while, and I'll be back pretty soon with another video. So this has been JP signing out.